And there's like a calculation that's really important for most of us youth, which I'll be like walking us through. It's like I would say to me, it's the most important calculation I could walk anyone through. Like right now, if I have just 5 minutes with you to share with you something, it will be this calculation. And this particular calculation has transformed a lot of people's lives, a lot of my students' lives as well. And I'm going to be sharing that with you. It's like really, really important. If we don't know it, we have got to know it. If we know it already, then I mean, awesome. It will just be a sort of reminder, right? So I'm going to be going into that very, very briefly. I'm going to be sharing a whiteboard with us. Yeah, then when our meeting on Zoom ends, I would love for us to switch to Google Meet. That's the second link I sent. So let's look at this briefly, right? So well, the title of this is the need for digital skills and how they help youth in buying back their life or time using my framework that was work, time, life analysis, and calculation. So it's like really, really, really key. And I think after this, for those of us that don't, are not familiar with this, it's going to be like really enlightening for us. So unfortunately, I think our conventional generation and some part of even our own generation, was of the idea of work should be done for money. So actually, we never work for money. We only work for time, right? So let me just put this in a simple format. So we all work for the ministry through Daddy Femi Manuel. So that means to an extent we save Daddy Femi Manuel time, right? That he would have used to do every single thing. So how do we narrate that to our own personal lives? So whatever work we're doing for funds, for money, it's not really the money we're getting back in return, but we're getting back the opportunity to save, our time over our lifetime, right? Because there is only one lifetime, and there is only so much time within that lifetime, right? And of course, there's only so much work one can do within that lifetime. Therefore, it would be wise to save that time, or rather invest the time, or create as much of it as possible through each of the daily actions that we take. So there is this is going to be case one, right? So I would appreciate if we have like a notepad with us, so we can like do these calculations. They are not disturbing mathematics like logarithms, trigonometry. It's not all this conk mathematics. It's basic additions, then multiplications. So for case one, right, I'm going to be like really, really quick with this. So for case one, right, I would want for us to write whatever amount it is through business or through like a corporate work, would write that as like in numerical form, right? So I'm just going to pick an example, a general example that we can all relate with. I'm just going to put, say, 100,000, right? Say as monthly income. So say 100 as a monthly income. So this is actually very important because it reframes our mind towards the purpose of what we want to do, and that will help us put a whole lot of energy into what we want to achieve and every other thing in line around that, right? Amazon is a global platform, so our mindset to understand the benefits really has to be like a global mindset, like thinking outside the box and restrictions that the conventional generation kind of had. So say 100 is like a monthly income, right, for that someone is currently earning, right? In one's lifetime of work, we would say one has basically, let's say 60 years, right, of work lifetime work. That is the total number of years one can work in a lifetime, right? That's 60. Okay, so if say one is earning 100, right, say the person starts working that at 20, which is not so feasible. So I want you to get these metrics down, right? Starts working 20 years old. Starts working 20 years old. Right? So we can write 20 years. Then we can write 60 years lifetime work. 60 years lifetime work. 20 years old, right? Say 100,000 in a month, per month, right? In front of 100,000 per month, right? The yearly per annum for that would be 1.2 million in a year. Okay, so in front of that you can write 1.2 million per year. Okay, so if someone starts working 20 years old, right, that means they would retire at 80, right, with 60 years of lifetime work. Okay, so that means the person retires at 80, which is still not feasible, but this is just a sort of hypothesis to work with so we understand the idea. So that's 80 years of retirement, so that's 60 years of lifetime work, 1.2 million per year. So if we calculate 1.2 million per year times 60 years of lifetime work, right? So 1.2 times 60 years of lifetime work, that's 72 million as revenue, right, in Naira for lifetime work. 72 million in a lifetime. Okay, that's at 100,000 a month. Okay, in any part that we don't understand, please, you can just raise a hand, so I'll be able to, re-clarify. Okay, so that's 72 million for lifetime earnings. Okay, that's for case one, for 100K per month earning. Now for case two, okay, say, right, the person earns exactly double per month of the other person in case one. That's 200, right? 200 in a month. Okay, 200 in a month, still with 60 years lifetime work, right? And the person starts working at, say, 20, right? That's 200 per month. We're together. That's how much per year?
Four.
2.4 million. Great. Thanks, Mr. David. So that's 2.4 million per year, right? So over 60 years of lifetime work, how much is that in a whole lifetime? Someone else, please. Say Mr. James or Miss Elizabeth. Yep, so 2.4 in a year over 60 years. How much is that? No, yeah, you can go again, Mr. David.
That's 144.
Okay, that's what 144. Great. So that's 144 million in a lifetime. Okay. So please be reminded, when this meeting ends, we'll join in straight with Google Meet. That's the other link. Okay. Please just be reminded. So that's 144 in a lifetime, right? So one thing I want us to do now is the 2.4, right, that you calculated per year, right? So instead of multiplying that by 60, okay, that you did just now, I want you to multiply that by 30 instead. What would it give you? So the 2.4 multiplied by 30 instead, by 30 years. Sorry?
72 million.
72 million. Great, awesome. So what did we observe right there, right? So calculating a double impact of a double per month earning actually saves our lives, like saves our lifetime in half. Amazing, right? So this is something that like we would have to still ponder on, a little bit. It's very important. It's the most important calculation I could give to anyone, because once the knowledge lives in you, then it starts working. You start thinking about. Okay, great. So welcome back, everyone. Yeah. So as I was saying, so in case two, just doubling, the monthly revenue actually slices the lifetime of work by half directly. So that means an extra doubling of monthly revenue saves half of the lifetime of work. So, in other words, the other person in case one that's doing 100 in a month and does 72 million in their whole lifetime, the other person in case two will achieve the exact same 72 million in a lifetime in just 30 years instead of 60 years. Isn't that mind-blowing? It's crazy. When I stumbled on the calculation at first, I'm like, I remember I couldn't stop writing when it was coming to me. So I feel this is the most important calculation, important for youth, so we don't fall into that trap of the conventional generation where the mindset was, save as much as possible, right? So it's like a totally new, different mindset and framework to invest as much as possible to increase the rate of earning, right? And this is, I'm not done with the calculation now. The beautiful part of this calculation is, now let's take for instance the person in case one that's doing 72 in a whole lifetime, 60 years, which is not possible, remember, because 60 years of lifetime work is not possible. In reality, what we have is 35 years of work in a lifetime, in reality. Because say someone starts working 25 on average, person retires by 60, okay? That's going to be 35 years. 60 minus 25 is 35. So 35 is like the most of the active years, okay? So, but we're using this 60 just for an analysis, okay? So the case two, you actually save 30 years by doubling monthly income, right? That's one. Now, the other thing I want to bring out of this is, look at the person in case two, in scenario two, right? That person in scenario two, if the person, so say there's person in case one, 20 years, person in case two, 20 years, they both start out their careers. The person in case one starts working already, right? And is doing that 100 a month, right? Over 60 years, they're going to do 72 million in a lifetime, right? But person in case two, even if person in case two, individual B, right, in case two, decides to not start working until 10 years after. This is the interesting part. This is the part that we would actually be able to draw a whole lot from. That's if we don't know this calculation already. But like I said, if we know it already, it's just going to be a reminder. So the person in case two, he can totally take 10 years off to not do anything, to only look for how to do 200 per month instead of 100 per month, right? So that means the person just has 10 years of not doing anything, probably just learning of how he could do 200 in a month, whether through business or through a different corporate work, right? I'm trying to introduce the need for digital skills, such as the one we have now, Amazon, to us, so we can really find purpose and meaning into it and pursue it, with all of our might. So the person in case B, right, he can decide to take 10 years off first, okay, without learning, without working, right? While the person in case one already started for 10 years, right? So the person in case one already started, like 10 years of work. 10 years times 1.2 in a year is going to give us 12, right? So that's going to be 12 million in 10 years for person in case one, okay? Right? For person in case one, in 10 years, going to do 12 million. Where the person in case two has not even started doing anything, right? Has not started earning. They've just been using that time to learn. But by the time the person in case 2 starts, earning, that's by the 11th year, right? By the 11th year, that person would have done just 2.4 in yearly revenue, okay? The person would have done 2.4 in yearly revenue, where the person in case 1 would have done what? That's 12 million, right? You see that's quite a mismatch for when person in case 2 just starts working and earns 200. But the increment happens like, it's like someone is going this way, right? Going this way. Then the other person doesn't start at all. Then they start somewhere here. This is the 10th year, or the 11th year rather. This person is going this way. But then it's like the person in case B starts here, right? And then all of a sudden, this person is going this way, gradually going to the top. The top is the destination, by the way, not this wing, right? This person starts doing this. You see that? Do you see how that goes? This is person in case 1. This is person in case 2. Right? So by the 11th year, person in case 2 does 2.4 in yearly revenue. By the 11th year, the person in case 1 does 12 million, right? So in just 20 years of work, right? So let's see the impact. So person in case 2, right? In 20 years of work, remember the first 10 years, they use that to not do anything, to only learn the things they need to learn to be able to do 200 in a month. So in 20 years, that means we're going to multiply 2.4 yearly income for person in case 2 by 10, because they use the first 10 years to learn, right? So if we calculate that, that's going to be 24, right? Because they do 2.4. They do 2.4 as at, yes, that's going to be 24 times 10, right? That's 2.4, that's 24 million rather, that person in case B would have done, okay? 24, okay, great. Then person in case 1, right, for 20 years, remember they started working from the first year, right, for 20. So we calculate 20 times 1.2, we get what? 24 million as well. Isn't that amazing? Interesting, right? But guess what? The person in case B didn't start working until the 11th year. That's mind-blowing. It's crazy. How is that possible? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes a whole lot of sense. It's numbers, right? So wealth is a numbers game, and progress all around, financial progress, every other form of progress can be tied to some numeric form, especially financial, right? So that's like the framework. If we understand that, then it relieves us of tension of, oh, I just finished school, I've got to go start working, I've got to like be earning, I've got to be leaving the house and coming in. No. Right? It's not, if one understands this framework and the purpose and the vision is clear, you have as much as 5-10 years to learn and not do anything, to be learning the absolutely appropriate things to be learned. It's interesting, and it's very, very relaxing. Okay, sorry. Okay, Mr. Tifa is not here. I would have asked about Miss Elizabeth because she's no more here with us. But I would go ahead regardless. So by the way, all of this is going to be recorded, so we'll actually have access to this. So we may not do much of like writing apart from this calculation part. We'll just do more of like paying attention. So it's very, very mind-blowing. Let's look at that, right? Someone doesn't work at all for 10 years, just learning about how they can do double of what the person that already started earlier, 10 years back, already did, and 20 years after, they are actually at par. And that's not where it stops. They are at par, of course, just on the basis of financial returns, of course, right? Okay. Now the main thing happens like the years after, okay? So the years till like retirement, that's where the real major change happens, right? So despite that person took 10 years to do learning, 10 years is a lot of time, by the way. 10 years is 3,650 days, okay? It's a lot of time, and if you convert that to hours, that's a huge expanse of time. Yep, exactly. I like your comment. It's not how far, it's how well. Yes, and that has to do with the rates. So rates is very important in mathematics and actually in life. So there is no pressure, like no pressure, and I guarantee you, like what we're about to learn, if you major, if you like, if you dig in deep on just that, I mean, it could be the game changer, you know. But it's not really about even just, you know, Amazon or any other platform. It's actually like a type of you know, mindset to go about you know, financial earnings and life generally, right? So this calculation, like I said, if I'm just meeting someone right now and I needed to, you know, tell them something that I feel would be really, really precious for them to bear in mind for the rest of their life, it will be this calculation. And that's why I introduced it on our very first class, and that's why, you know, I brought it in so that we can align ourselves with the purpose behind everything, and that will also increase the drive we are having for everything we're going to do. The book uploads, you know, the payment platforms, you know, the account details, you know, for Amazon and other platforms. Okay, so I want us to align ourselves with this understanding. So it will make much more sense to learn every skill learnable, to invest in a 10 years duration, in a 5 years duration, before one starts earning. And what does that mean? What that means for someone that is targeted towards 10 years after to start earning, right, on the 11th year, some opportunities could even come, right, that would feel like opportunities, right, but they just might as well could be distractions, right, based on this analysis. Does that make sense? Because if you're supposed to, at the 11th year, you're supposed to start doing double of the person in case A, and you already took on another opportunity that's taking time for you to not learn what you need to learn to be able to start functioning with that rate by year 11, then that's going to be a sort of loss. Welcome back, Mr. Tiffet. What's up with Miss Elizabeth? Or would she maybe come join you over there? It seems you're a bit close. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. I don't think he can hear yet. So I mean, think about that for a second. No pressure. Okay. So the last statement I made emphasis on was, at times there could be distractions, okay? There could be distractions. How can a distraction come? A distraction could come in the form of, oh, hello, sir. Yeah, thanks. Sorry for that brief. Yeah, so distractions could come in different forms, okay? Distractions could come in different forms. An example of a distraction could be a job opportunity coming that is not going to allow one learn what one ought to learn to start functioning by the 11th year in terms of double. So that means for a person in case B, if as at the 5th year of their learning, an opportunity comes and it's like, oh, can you do this for 50K a month or 100 a month? That's going back to case A, right? It's like the person would think, oh, now I'm earning, but actually based on your goals and visions and purpose, you are digressing. It's like retrogression. If you do the calculations, it's going to be, you're going to be starting on the level of person in case A. Okay, so Mr. Tiffet, when you weren't around, we talked about the 10 years analysis. The person in case B, if he works for 10 years, is going to be far ahead by the 20th year when they start earning, compared to the person in case A. Okay, and we talked about distractions. Distractions are, well, at times dressed up in opportunity form, but we may want to see it as an opportunity because we're not so clear on the vision and the purpose. So, and this is where it's important, like purpose and vision is important. Vision is key, right? If we don't see, well, we can't feel that that opportunity is a distraction. We'll see it as an opportunity, a blessing. Makes sense. Which of course it is, or it could be in a certain way. Of course, some other factors are kept constant with this discussion. Personal needs, the time for certain things to be done. But all of those are secondary, right? The calculation is like the vision to be clear. Very, very, very key. We cannot afford to miss out on that. Okay, so that's the idea. So I think with this, it gives a lot of peace. Am I correct? Right? There is no rush. Like there's all the time to learn, to get to where we need to go. No rush. Like that should give a lot of peace and comfort. That gave me a lot of peace and comfort. Right? And actually, this calculation I'm revealing to us is the one that actually got me to resign at my corporate work. I remember that particular day, I was just scribbling and writing fast in the office, just writing fast as it was coming, right? And very shortly after that, I actually resigned from my corporate work because it was like knowledge you have, you cannot deny it, right? The knowledge is going to be working through you. So the knowledge kept disturbing me of like I'm almost like wasting my time and wasting my life, right? So what does that mean? Now look at this other scenario. I'm giving us a whole lot so we can personalize this calculation, okay? Very, very important calculation. Now what does this mean? If I'm working somewhere and they're like, oh, I'm going to give you a salary raise, okay? I'm going to raise your salary, I'm going to increase it with 20k extra per month for the person in case A. Person is doing 100, they're like, oh, I'm going to increase that, you're going to do 120 every month. Just still kind of tie me down. Oh, I can't hear you clearly. Can you use the I think you're muted. Or you're not talking to me. That's Mr. Tife. Okay, all right. So if we think about that for a second, it's like wow. Even when there's a case of like a salary raise of say 20, 30, it still doesn't really cut it in the long run based on target because the rate will still fall off, will still reflect. Okay. All right. So please, we want to bear this calculation in mind. It's very, very key, and I thought to share with us the very first day of class. This calculation will keep finding expression in us by the special grace of God.